Are you on the edge of your seat?
Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams.
On today's latest trends in location-based entertainment.
Brought to you by the LBX Collective.
Your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Alrighty, everyone. Let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to another Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 54. So we are getting up there in numbers, but we got a good agenda today. But before we get started, we of course have to have our regular old meme. So, Kevin, what is the meme today?
Oh, how do you look after a young man while you're doing recording is another question. Say hello to the audience, Dante. You're taking over after I retire, by the way. So the question has to be, there must be a better way for the future generation and the current generation to have for a layout of an amusement facility. I am just gobsmacked by the various poor and good interpretations, and I'm wondering, in my communist bent at the moment, whether we should standardize the way that facilities are laid out. Am I being a bit too controlling, Brandon?
I don't know about standardization. I think there's probably, because the problem with some level of standardization is that there are, like every game floor is going to be somewhat different. You're going to have pillars in different places. You're going to have color outlets. If you especially haven't designed the building yourself from ground up, or having a lot of TI done, you're going to have to deal with where power is and power runs. But I would say that at least, and I know best practices exist, but at least maybe broadcasting those best practices more. I don't mean broadcasting through a podcast, but I mean like having them documented somewhere or put out there somewhere. Like instead of being, okay, well, what did my distributor tell me or give me and tell me where I should drop this game floor, drop myself on my game floor or whatever. So maybe some best practices alongside the standardization. But man, I have seen recently some terrible game floor layouts. And it doesn't become like, it's just things I don't even know why things are where they are. There's big gaps, things are crooked, they're not pushed up against each other so that you actually are seeing like the power cables everywhere. And anyway, I feel like sometimes people don't really think through where they're putting everything.
Think through or don't know what they don't know, the Rumsfeldian approach. Too many times sometimes I have to do postmortems on failed facilities or pick up the pieces when an investor tries to salvage a situation. And what it is the developer goes in with good intention. The road to hell is paved with it. But then they find that the architect they've selected or the specialist that they've asked to help them with that development hasn't had any knowledge of what they were talking about. And one of the best ones I think we've come across is where the arcade machines were all clustered around the power sockets, and the architect, looked bemused when we said you can't do that. He couldn't work out why the skee ball couldn't just be rammed in the corner facing the power socket. He didn't understand the whole point about play and through and audience flow. That said, even the best designed facilities can come a cropper of bad layout. And, we speak from experience when we were doing our walking around of some of the entertainment facilities in Orlando. We won't mention which large chain store that we went into, but some of the layout of their new entertainment attractions was pretty poor compared to actually thinking about having human beings take part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, should we jump into the trends here after a quick word from our sponsor, Intercard?
I think so.
All right, let's do it.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, And if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
All right, let's dive into the latest trends.
Well, let's make it happen then. So I think one of the biggest trends in the industry at the moment is positioning and the perception of positioning. I was interested to see that AI artwork was being used by at least two companies to kind of show the then and now renderings of what they think the market was back in the day and what it is going to be going forwards. I would argue that the halcyon picture of what a pub looked like in 1974 is missing the fog of multiple cigarettes being smoked. And I would also argue that 2024's picture of individuals looking soullessly into their smartphones is not a correct interpretation after a few lemonades have been consumed. That said, it is interesting to see that our industry is trying to present a then and now perception of the market, and that AI technology is being used. All I would suggest is that the prompts need a little bit more work to get the visuals correct. I touched upon this in the opening and shuts for those people that didn't catch that. Felix and Paul is a very arty creation studio. They're famous for their artwork. The two individuals behind the facility are artists in their own right. They have been delving into new technologies, and virtual reality is one of those technologies that they delved into. They created a unique experience based on the International Space Station that became a traveling experience, very successful, visited a number of major cities in Canada and North America and Europe, if my memory serves me right. The company raised, or the studio, off the back of that success, raised a considerable amount of money from various operations. If you zoom in or pause this particular slide, you can go into the details of the raise. And now they have announced that they're going to be opening a 20,000 square foot permanent version of this. I don't think it's going to be a version. I think it's going to be a brand new interpretation of their space experience in Las Vegas, in Area 15's orbit, as it were. This is scheduled for a 2025 opening, as far as we can understand. And it's going to be one of the many big operations that are joining the John Wick's experience and the Universal Haunted Attraction experience. This area in Area 15 is turning into its own mini theme park, one would say. But this is the latest addition to the mix. While we're talking about virtual reality, the keen-eyed there may have noticed that the individuals walking around the Felix and Paul space experience were wearing Meta Quest 2 headsets. We don't often see the Meta Quest family of VR headsets deployed into the out-of-home entertainment market. There are a small number of out-of-home entertainment companies that actually use that. What's actually happening now is that the consumer market is the core focus of Meta, and they're going through the baptism of fire that a number of consumer VR companies are going through at the moment. Our friends at Quest really didn't see the kind of numbers that they were expecting from their Black Friday sales over at Amazon, though the company is being very bullish on social media, saying that sales in retail were fantastic. They're not really backing those up with any numbers. As we know, our friends at Apple with the Apple Vision Pro have eased back from their early adopter aspirations with their headset, and have actually paused or cancelled fabrication of their system. And they're now even rumored to be in discussion with Sony, who have also eased back on their own rollout of their VR headset towards maybe marrying the controllers, the game controllers from the PlayStation VR, and applying them to the Apple Vision Pro, which is, it's an interesting a couple of months ago when these were launched. If you had suggested this to the executives that they would be doing these type of things, they would have spat in your tea and thrown you out of the building. Now, bought in a store, and just to put a little bit of perspective on how we may be at a transitional point for the consumer VR sector is the search trending in the slides there. You can kind of see how the gloss, or should we say the hype, has kind of worn off those platforms, and that the audience is now looking at other things with their search terms, where you would have normally have expected to see VR and Apple Vision Pro and Sony PlayStation and Meta Quest VR being highly searched trend topics. They're plateauing a little bit. Brandon?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this probably, it may have been a couple of shows ago, but I see this exact same trend in my own household. My son, who has in many years, subsequent years, bought the next version, the next version, the next version, to the point where now he has 4 headsets sitting around the house. All Meta, but like Oculus before, he had one of the first Oculus, and then you got the last couple of Meta Quests. And he had his no desire to get the Meta Quest, the latest version of Meta Quest 3S. He also doesn't play anymore at home, like very, very little. He plays online games, so he games on his PC, but very, very, very little gaming on his VR. And for whatever reason, we've seen that drop off. So I see this in my own household. I think that this is also something we're seeing, obviously in the location-based entertainment scene, right? So out of home video.
We'll come to that, but you've got a fantastic lens upon the reality of the sector. I'm a bit of a curmudgeon. I see the glass half empty a lot of the times, and so this isn't my first dance with virtual reality. I was involved with the technology back in the 90s when it first tried to establish itself in the consumer sector, and went through the baptism of fire, failed, burnt, crashed, went into hibernation, and now has risen again as Lazarus to try and establish itself. The claims about it being able to make itself mainstream, I poo-pooed. And paid the price for being questioning of the hype. Now that the hype has come home, many of the people that were claiming that it was fantastic have run away into the distance, or are sticking to their guns and holding on to the boat, the life raft as it slowly sinks into the cold waters. I don't believe that VR is going to go away. I don't believe in the VR is dead. What I believe is that we're about to experience a reckoning, or a correction, if we were in the financial markets. The hype failed to deliver. And many people have been saying, we can look forward to, now that there is the cheap Meta Quest 3S, this is the real price point that people are prepared to pay, forgetting that the people who are playing most of these VR are the children. And they are not the buyers of these machines, their parents are. And like yourself, their parents have seen a number of failed attempts at trying to create a system that is going to hold them. And they don't want to throw bad money after good. Yeah. The other aspect is that I was sitting on a panel at IALPA with Bob Cooney, a friend of mine, who is a leading expert in virtual reality and location-based entertainment. And he was proffering the concept that this is going to be a really strong year for VR in the consumer, because there are products out there that are aimed at the young players, Gorilla Tag and Amongst Us, and other games that will now be available on the cheaper on the Meta Quest 3S for under $400, and they'll jump onto this and they'll be able to play with their friends online, and away they go. This will be the biggest thing since sliced bread for the market. And I countered that by saying, this is 8 years in now, over 8 years, where we have been promising this is it. The VR is going to be the big thing for consumer VR. And last year, with the Meta Quest 2, was the biggest sales that we've seen for the cheap VR headset system linked to all this content. Now, we're actually seeing the market shrugging their shoulders and looking towards maybe faster laptops or faster graphics cards and playing the more traditional game experiences. And we need to be mindful in our market that if as I think it is, the consumer VR sector is going to go through a little bit of a bumpy road, not go away, but a bumpy road, we need to make sure that we distance ourselves enough from that where we are seen to be unique rather than tied to the coattails of this sector. Interesting what we're seeing in Japan. Meta has a totally different marketing and promotional team handling the launch of the VR platform, the Meta Quest VR platform in Japan. And they have had some really interesting commercials and promotions for this. And one of the things that this operation has decided to do to help promote the latest of the Meta Quest platforms is to turn to the out-of-home entertainment industry. They've actually created a VR experience using the MetaQuest 3s as the delivery headset based on the popular Gundam IP, and you can go into a virtual experience, put on the headset, and walk around information and background and action from the Gundam properties. If only there was an industry in the West that has been talking directly to the out-of-home entertainment sector, which Meta could have come to for help in promoting their system. But that's me putting on my "I told you so" T-shirt, and I'll take it off now because it's tight. Another aspect about VR being deployed in location-based entertainment, we're seeing, as I've touched on before, attractions that were originally perceived as standalone systems that would be their own facility systems, now being pared down and turned into attractions that can be put into existing sites. And so we saw that with Gravity Max in Wandsworth, where our friends at Sandbox VR decided to create a small version of their experience, which could then be slotted in along with the go-karting and the mini golf and all of the other attractions at this mule. And funny enough, one of the attractions that they went into next door to was our friends at Immersive Gamebox, who used a projection experience with tracked head marker to create their immersive experience rather than virtual reality headsets. And I was caught by the marketing that our friends at Immersive Gamebox has plastered on their systems that sit alongside these VR experiences, which is "we are like VR, but fun and social." Shots fired, I think.
Oh man, I absolutely love that line, and I don't necessarily disagree with it either. Although anybody who's spent some time in immersive Gamebox also knows it's an immersive hotbox. So I do think that their four-walled arena, where it's fully enclosed, just is a little bit too hot for a 30 to 45-minute game experience. But anyway.
I pointed out to one of the founders about, they were saying to me, we have 4 people, you can have 4 people in the immersive enclosure. And I just finished one of their early games. And I said, no, you mean 5. And he looked at me quizzically. I said, the projector, because those projectors were putting out a lot of heat. I know they've been working on their AC applications for Immersive Gamebox. And I know that they've had great success with their Squid Games properties, and I know they have some other IP up their belt, or in their belt, should I say. But also, so does Sandbox VR. But hey, I want these guys to fight, because the more they battle and the more they become more competitive, the more they help the industry. All boats float. I wish both of them a lot of luck, and I look forward to looking at the return on investment numbers from both of their products at these facilities when they're released, so we can see which is the winner.
Yep.
Talking about winning and all boats floating, the merger and acquisition craze continues apace within our sector, or our sector in a whole. And again, you can pause the slide and go into the minutiae of the deal. But in Australia, The Luna Park facility in Sydney is very popular. It is a very traditional amusement park, Ferris wheels and attractions. It is a mainstay of the area, a veteran of the area, and it's just been announced that it's been acquired by Oscars, a company that comes from the hospitality and the bar sector that is now looking to broaden its business and get into the theme park and family entertainment center business. So yet again, we become a battleground for the merging and the acquisition of the sector. And I can tell you that 2025 will double down on what we've experiencing at the moment. Looking at some trends in the tech side, and I touched upon in the last sound off that I would be going into a little bit more detail about the Japanese perspective on crane machines, because there was an anniversary, and that anniversary is the UFO catcher. Sega, over, let's see now, it's 40 years, oh God, how time flies. Over 40 years since they launched their first UFO catcher, unidentified furry object catcher. And this was their crane system, but rather than using the claw, because it was perceived to be too much of a scam, they went for a scoop, which involves much more skill in collecting of the item. And they produced their first UFO catcher Series 1 machine, and they have gone gangbusters ever since. They're actually up to number 11 in the series now. I think the picture I've added to the slide there is of the new one that was launched at Amusement Expo Tokyo last month. It is really a testament to the popularity of this machine and the presentation of this machine. It has been emulated by other of the Japanese amusement manufacturers, and you are inundated by crane machines when you're walking around the Japanese amusement centers, and they're not just joystick and buttons and scoop. They also now incorporate customization capabilities. They also incorporate a high level of collectible merch where people really work hard to get their hands on the prizes that these machines are dispensing. And they are skill. I have watched some of the best in the game do that. That said, the operators can control the level of skill that is employed. So, it is an ongoing battle to not have the machine totally emptied by the latest superhero. They are followed avorously by their adoring public, and the merchandising for these systems are the popular IPs from the international market, film IP, latest manga, latest anime, the latest animated series. It is something that we really need to be mindful in the West, that these systems, these machines are a genre that needs to receive a lot more respect from us, because they can produce a lot more revenue for our business. And if you haven't done your research into the new wave of crane and UFO kinds of machines that are coming into the market, then you're doing your operation a disservice. Brandon?
I was just going to say almost the exact same thing. In this, we are seeing a renaissance of crane merchandising in family entertainment centers, but also just we're seeing this in shopping malls and shopping centers, where you have a little bit of a space. You have 1,000 square feet, 15 or maybe 2,000 square feet of space in a shopping mall, and you line these up with these types of, it might be UFO catchers, it might be other claw machines, other cranes, cut to wins, whatever it might be, but you've got all of these things that are being crammed into these open spaces now as well. So I absolutely think that we're seeing a crane renaissance here in the West, and it's been a popular thing obviously in the East for a long time, and it really has not seen, we've had claw machines in bowling alleys and roller rinks for a long time, but that was just one or two that some route operator filled with really cheap plush. But now we're really seeing that renaissance with high quality IP-based plush and other objects.
So just an example of what you were touching upon there, the Chinese embrace of the high level high quality new wave crane machines sitting alongside also a little bit of amusement. And you see chains like the E Plus family fun centers out in China. I think there's about 50 odd of these sites. And these are not like your grandma's arcade. And it goes back to my question proffered at the beginning of this sound off about how we lay the machines out. You don't see the sticky luminescent carpets here in this. This is the polished tile work. This is the high level neon. This is the stylized lighting systems. This is creating a compelling entertainment environment, as well as being supported by a high level quality crane business. And those of you that remember a couple of open and shuts back in October, I touched upon how Utah had started to see a number of these new wave crane facilities opening up, and were doing some real good business. And the interesting thing about it is, when you go to these venues in the West, you get a bag. You get a bag when you enter the facility, because they know you're going to be walking away with merch no matter how bad a player you are. That is the difference between some of the operators, I'm not going to name them in our industry, that are spending more time adjusting the screw in the middle of their claw machine to make it as soft as possible every 20 goes, than really thinking about selling good quality merch to an audience that's prepared to pay for it. Anyway, enough about deriding our industry. No. The other aspect that I was interested to see popping up again is the customization of beverage. And those that will remember a couple of sound offs back when I was talking about the guest experience and have it your way, is something to consider. It's nice to see some people actually deploying that approach. Our friends at Paul Bros is being used in one of the pictures, and our friends at Gravity Max is being used in the other picture. Interesting thing with Gravity Max is they've actually done a partnership with Coca-Cola. So they've got a very heavy branding Coca-Cola, and they've actually deployed the American version Coca-Cola selectable or customizable drinks fountains in their UK facilities. I think this is one of the first times that this generation of customized drink experience machines have been deployed in an entertainment site in the UK. Pour Bros allows you to go up and pour the beer that you want from the wide selection that they have. Have it your way is something not just for burgers, but it should also be for the F&B component within our facilities, if not the whole experience. And for you operators that are looking at upgrading your F&B offering, if you haven't thought about a customized drinks and food offering, then you again may be leaving some cheddar on the table there. Brandon?
Yeah. I don't know if the audio came through. Some TikTok video came up as I was trying to actually get a video of this experience, the pour experience. I can't tell if that says pour experience or bourbon experience or what that might be there. But I was thinking about that, so I was trying to actually to quickly look it up, because imagine if you actually had a self-serve. I mean, I've been in a number of places that actually have self-serve cocktails as well. So you push a button and a little bit of a pre-mixed cocktail comes out, and it comes out in a 3-ounce pour, or a 4-ounce pour, or 1-ounce pour, depending on what it is. And if you could have an opportunity to do high-end bourbon tastings, but pay and do self-serve up to a certain amount, right? Like a little 1-ounce pour of some Weller or something would be pretty interesting to be able to do, beyond just having to wait and get that behind a bar. So anyway, I thought that's what that might have been, is a bourbon experience, but maybe that says pour or something like that there on the picture.
And I apologize for the poor photograph that was available there, but it is beer that they're serving. One of their beers, one of the many beers that they have there, is bourbon flavored. And let's address the elephant in the room. This isn't the first rodeo that our industry has had with self-service systems. The problem is that many operators feel that they're more trouble than they're worth. They went through the process of having pour your own ice cream system, or they installed the Coca-Cola serve your own drinks, and having to constantly top up the ice cream cone systems and the ice cream pour systems, or having to add more cordial units to the machines can be a pain in the bum. And some operators feel that it may be more trouble than it's worth. I would argue that maybe you don't look a gift horse in the mouth and throw it out the stables, but you try and redress the system to make it more acceptable for your audience. And just saying, oh, well, the audience is too young and we can't have self-service systems may be valid for some facilities, but if you're in the especially in the competitive socializing area, that is not an excuse that you can use. And the other aspect about this kind of pour your own drink is going back to what I was saying in a couple of sound offs back, which is we're seeing a growth in virgin drinks in location-based entertainment. Not everybody wants to have a highly alcohol drink. Some people are actually looking at having virgin cocktails and having maybe your, so we say, softer drinks being vended compared to your harder drinks being curated by your mixologist, may be a way to get around this situation. Anyway, moving on, and one of the aspects that we saw at IALPA was the growth in active entertainment systems, and there were a number of companies promoting their ball launching, projected screen kinds of experiences. I would point out to our friends at Dugout that their system was aimed specifically for the competitive socializing market and was produced to a very high standard. Sadly, because they were outside, a number of attendees to the show forgot to go outside and breathe and see the exhibits outside there. But the home run dugout system was very impressive. It uses a unique ball launching system for the baseball experience, and they're using a special baseball so that the players can really get some heft behind the swing, or for novice players, they're not injuring themselves as would be with a more traditional baseball launching system. And surprise, surprise, I think along with pickleball, that baseball may be due to become a competitive socializing star in the next couple of months, because our friends at Sixes, who developed the cricket competitive socializing experience, announced on the low Q that they were launching Moonshot. And Moonshot, going for the moon, is a baseball interpretation of their cricket system. Not everybody wants to wield a cricket bat, a real cricket bat, at a projection system, and some within their operation have favored a lighter, more, so we say, friendlier approach to social batting with a baseball system under their brain. And it was a surprise to see that this particular concept is being parachuted into one of their sites that had previously been the Sixes cricket operation. So I'm not sure how much of this is being done as a kind of opening up as Sixes as well as opening up as Moonshot, but it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that type of thing. Did you get a chance to try Home Run Dugout at IALPA, Brandon?
I did, and I've been a big fan of Home Run Dugout since they first announced their initial location, and they've even had to expand that existing location to add more bays because they've seen such success already there. And I think this comes down to what I talk about a lot with these types of attractions, is it needs to be accessible to a wider variety of people if you really want them to have fun and have a good time. Your old school batting cage and even the newer versions of batting cage simulators, but when they still are firing the ball at you at normal pitching speeds, it is not fun to people who are not used to playing baseball or going to batting cages. And so Home Run Dugout has done a great job at creating almost a T-ball-like experience to just have a lot of fun hanging out with people. And you also need a lot less netting and security and everything else around you too, because the ball's not flying out directly right behind you. So anyway, I think they've done a phenomenal job. It is a fantastic experience, and if you haven't had a chance to go check out Home Run Dugout, I would highly encourage anybody listening or watching to find, to get out there and see it in their first location.
I hope that they live up. The guys were incredibly gracious during IALPA. They had great hospitality alongside the ability to actually see their system in operation. And I would really say that this is something that could be the top golf of the baseball application. So I'm not giving them fake praise. I do feel very strongly about it, and I can understand why our friends with Moonshot are also equally looking at this being more of an ideal approach. I said to the team at Sixes when they first launched their facility, did they expect the women to be able to wield the cricket, the full-size cricket bat, as well as the men in the experience? And they sort of and ah and said it's a wider experience. I think with Moonshot, we may be seeing them now aiming for a more broader batting experience. But again, I won't get a chance to report back from Moonshots until next month.
Yeah, I will say one thing quickly about Home Run Dugout, and that is, you mentioned its similarities to potentially Top Golfing, called Top Golfing baseball. And incidentally, they are located in Katy, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. Lots of new attractions and things are going into Katy, but it's right next door to Andretti Indoor Karting and Games, which naturally is always going right next door to a Topgolf. So seeing those two right next to each other is really, really puts it home to me, that this is a Topgolf like experience, but for baseball.
Funny, we touched upon it in Opening and Shut, that we have a situation where two competitive socializing, or not competitive, two entertainment hubs are going close to each other. They're not competing against each other, they are complementing each other. We have the Crayola experience going next door to the Nerf experience. And I've always felt that this is really going to be the future, the long-term future for location-based entertainment, where we're not a single site stuck in the middle like a Toys R Us in the middle of a desert of a factory mall, that really we'll be creating clusters, or, as the retail sector likes to call it, entertainment anchors, where people come for the entertainment and stay for the food, come for the retail and then migrate over to the entertainment. So rather than us being an industry that tries to compete against each other, we try and complement each other. That said, when I repeat what our friends at Home Run Dugout say, that they want to be the top golf for baseball, I think they're doing themselves a disservice. They should really be targeting at people like Five Irons and X Golf as a competitive socializing environment that goes into a hospitality space, rather than the shooting venue that is Top Golf. For me, I love what Top Golf has done, as well as their competitors have done, Atomic Golf and Riles and all of the others. They have taken the shooting range golf facility and turned it into an interactive entertainment social environment. But for me, they're some of the most boring locations known to man, until you have that guest experience, until your group of you go out and share the food and the interactive entertainment. They took what was predominantly soul destroying and turned it into entertainment, where really our future of location-based entertainment and competitive socializing is to take entertainment and take it to a new level. And really, this in the next 2 or 3 years, we are going to be seeing a lot of work made towards maybe gathering together similar kinds of entertainment to generate that all-important repeat visitation.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that wraps up an excellent sound off number 54 with Kevin Williams. So thank you, Kevin, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you then.